The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
South Africa is in the middle of a very complex situation involving farmers and the reallocation, redistribution, seizure. There's no way to describe it in politically neutral terms of farmland. And there is now a new Russian movement that seeks to lure white South African farmers to move to rural Russia where they can have nice big farms. And basically the selling points are, listen, you will be safe here. White people in Russia are revered. You're going to be great. Nobody's going to take land from you. We have abundant farmland because Russia is absolutely gigantic and there are extraordinarily rural areas. And we have traditional, we would uphold traditional Christian values, even though Russia as a communist state was, of course, non-religious, although you've got Russian Orthodox. Anyway, it's a whole complicated thing about religion in Russia. And this, of course, is understood to fit directly into the identity politics of Vladimir Putin, right? That's the thing. We want to give an opportunity to the farmers that we feel are being poorly treated in South Africa. Putin wants more individuals who are white and traditional in their values, if not traditional Christians. And they also want more of a population because with population comes power. They've got the space for it. And it is just amazing that this is now something that's being discussed.
Yeah, certainly a white nationalism, identity politics, power play by Vladimir Putin in Russia. I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think that even if South African farmers are at risk of getting their land expropriated or are the targets of crime, for example, as some people are alleging, they're going to uplift their entire families and move almost halfway across the world.
To rural Russia.
To rural Russia. Not even like, moving to a city.
Right.
Moving to a rural area and having to learn a new language and all that stuff. It's just too much. I think they're just doing this for like PR and attention rather than anything else, and to undermine other countries.
From like a practical perspective, let's put the language thing aside, right? You figure out what the language situation is going to be. You go to Russia, you're going to be able to communicate. Maybe they give you a full-time translator. I have no idea. You start working raw land into farmland. It can take a while before there's anything of value. So is Russia going to subsidize you so that you have an income during the time it takes to actually start getting crop yield? And if so, it's very difficult to imagine that Russia is going to provide a significant subsidy so that you would be comfortable living. I mean, you might be fine in this completely rural part of Russia, but you're not traveling anywhere. You're not staying at hotels in a city if you feel like it. It just seems so horrible, quite frankly, to think about actually doing this if you're a white farmer in South Africa. Or a black farmer, by the way.
Anyone, yeah. I mean, it's like a 21st century Homestead Act where these South Africans can move to Russia, and as long as they farm on the land for X number of years, they get to keep it. Not a great offer, I think. But, I mean, it reminds me certainly of like the election meddling and foreign interference that Russia's been doing for a long time. It just feels like this is a lot more fair game. Like, they're not going to be breaking any international laws by making this offer.
No.
It's just clear that they do want to influence other countries' politics.
They want to be players. That's what it is. They just want to be a factor in as much stuff going on around the world as possible. Two things I hate: Halloween-related things and theme park-related things. I don't like Halloween because I just am totally bored with it. I went trick-or-treating when I was a kid, but now I'm annoyed by Halloween parties. I'm annoyed when people say, hey, I'm having a party on October 27th, but it's a Halloween party. It's because Halloween's on a Wednesday this year. So please come wearing a costume. It's like, well, listen, it's the 27th. I'm going to dinner beforehand. I'm not going to wear a costume all night. I'm sorry. I'm just not wearing a costume. I'm not going to do it.
When was the last time you wore a costume, and what was the costume?
I think I have like a bag of wigs that I have on standby. Anytime I really feel like, okay, I should wear some kind of costume, I will put on one of the wigs and then a pair of sunglasses, and like that's my costume.
Okay.
So I've got like a multicolored clown wig, a dreadlocks wig, and a one other one I don't remember. I think it's like long reddish hair.
Yeah, may have to borrow one of those.
Sure.
Last year I was Safari Hunter, man.
Yeah.
And I had short shorts and Timberland boots and a cool shirt with a safari hat. It was quite the costume.
Are you going to bring that one back out this year?
I may have to.
Yeah. Okay, so, and then why do I hate theme parks? Well, mostly because Most of the rides I don't like. I went a few times on an older roller coaster, and it wasn't like the swings and the swoops that bothered me. It was the bumpiness of the wooden old infrastructure of the roller coaster. It was just like shaking my head in a way that I didn't really like. And I hate the lines. I don't wait in line for stuff if I can avoid it. And you've got to wait in lines at most theme parks. Anyway, There's now a story from Six Flags St. Louis, which is combining Halloween stuff and theme park stuff, which is that there is a challenge to spend 30 hours in a coffin. They are posing this challenge to their guests in honor of their yearly Fright Fest celebration. Anything called Fright Fest, count me out, please, get me out of it. If you can lie in a coffin for 30 hours, you might win $300. But it's not a guarantee. There's a whole process that would take place to determine that.
Yeah.
Check, please. I'm out.
Because if other people do the same thing and get through with the challenge and also stay 30 hours in a coffin, they raffle it off. And I mean, $300. Wow, that's a life-changing sum of money. But not really.
Maybe 300, and you might spend the 30 hours in there and still not get the. I mean, this is
$10 an hour.
Crazy.
I mean,
what are
we
doing? What are we doing? What is happening to American society? I just hate this.
I mean, I thought at first that there would be no way that I could possibly do this because I was imagining myself lying down in a coffin, which is kind of creepy, but also having nothing to do.
Yeah.
Apparently, they have chargers. Like, you can use your phone. You can watch Netflix the entire time that you're in there. You can sleep, obviously.
What about bathrooms?
And you can get, you get 6 minutes per hour to get out of the coffin and go to the bathroom.
Oh, you do?
So I would be up for this. The prize money would just have to be substantially more than $300, and I would have to be guaranteed that money, of course.
Yes, right. I think if the term. So, basically what you're saying is, if the terms of the challenge were completely different, you would be very interested.
Yeah, like I mean, you'd think it would be psychologically degrading to spend that much time in a coffin, and maybe it would be, but I'd be willing to do it if that prize money was upped a little bit.
Yeah, as long as it was like on a Friday to Saturday type of thing or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, 30 hours, I can go back on it quick.
There is a wobble to the Earth. You may or may not know this, but the Earth wobbles slightly, and an in-depth study conducted by NASA found that humans are responsible for a slightly larger wobble as the Earth spins on its axis. And we think of the Earth as an exact sphere. It's not. It's actually an oblate spheroid, which is not exactly a perfect sphere. It's also pockmarked with things like mountains and deep ocean trenches. So the weight is not totally evenly distributed among Earth's surface. And then in addition to this, you have humans. More and more humans on the surface of the Earth, who of course are not distributed evenly throughout the planet, right? We have rural areas, we have urban areas, we have completely uninhabited areas. This further unbalances the weight distribution of Earth. And we now have, in addition to that, the melting of ice, we have glacial rebound and all of these other factors. And yes, even humans are making it so that the Earth is spinning on slightly more of a wobble than it used to.
Yeah, and maybe this would contribute to a death spiral when it comes to climate change, because if we have less ice, in the glacier areas...
Fewer ice.
No,
I know, I'm kidding around. I'm messing with
you. Fewer ice caps.
There you go.
But less ice. That would affect the balance. So you have that stage 1 of climate change where it causes the ice caps to melt, but then stage 2 would be a more significant wobble to the Earth, which would lead to, I'd imagine... more extreme weather events and stronger differences between the seasons, make like the summers hotter and the winters colder.
Potentially.
Yeah. So that's stage 2 of climate change, and I think that both things are not helping one another. It's quite the opposite.
Can you imagine if humanity at some point came to the realization that in order to stabilize Earth, we need to, number one, evenly distribute the population throughout the world. So a lot of you, you're going to have to move. Billions of people are going to have to move around. Number two, we needed to smooth out the mountains in order to prevent that element from contributing to the wobble. We are going to have to start taking apart mountains and putting a bunch of that material, I don't know, shooting it into space. I don't even know what we would do. Of course, I'm sort of being facetious. The point is, there are things that humans influence on our planet that are on such a scale that we basically can't undo them, or what would be required to undo them would be almost insurmountable in terms of the scope.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't a threat to our overall existence of a species, I would think it's actually kind of cool that human beings have evolved to the point where we can affect our environment in such a significant way.
Yeah.
Like other animals can't really do that. There's, beavers, they can build a dam, and, some
Bees
chimpanzees
can have a big effect on the environment.
Yeah, true. And chimpanzees, they can use basic tools, but not like us humans. We are quite smart.
I was thinking that if we, that phrase you always hear, there's no overpopulation. We could fit everyone on Earth into Rhode Island if they stood shoulder to shoulder. Let's assume we did that for a second. What would that do to the wobble of the Earth, I wonder?
Oh, man. I think we would leave the solar system.
It would completely disengage us from our orbit, yeah. We're not going to be trying it anytime soon. I don't think we have to worry.
Neil deGrasse Tyson said this on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I thought it was pretty insightful. We think about these big drastic differences between like the highest points on Earth and the lowest points on Earth. So Mount Everest is about 29,000 feet. That's like, what, 4 or 5 miles high or something like that?
Yeah, about close to 6, I guess.
The Marianas Trench is about the same, 4 or 5 miles deep. So that means the difference between the highest point on Earth and the lowest point on Earth is only 9 miles.
Yes.
Which is like the length of Manhattan. And considering the size of the Earth, it makes me feel like Earth is actually more spherical than we thought.
It makes you feel that way.
I mean, that's pretty good. Considering the size of the Earth, the distance between the top and the bottom is only 9 miles.
Yeah.
And how large is it across? Isn't it like 8,000 miles in diameter?
More interesting about that is how narrow the area where humans can comfortably live is. Because you're not going to be comfortable 30,000 feet above the ocean, and you're not going to be comfortable 30,000 feet below the ocean. And that for me is the real shocker, which is we can exist comfortably in such a narrow range there. That's another reason why we really shouldn't mess up our planet.
Yeah, it makes me second guess wanting to move my farm to Russia from South Africa.
If you were about to do it, you might have second thoughts. Okay, that is it for the week. Next week, I will be here Monday. We will have a guest host Tuesday because I am traveling out to Las Vegas for the Mass Torts Made Perfect conference, where I will be broadcasting on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I am optimistic that we will have an even better technical setup than we had when I was in Paris because of the faster internet and sort of physical proximity. Although, in reality, Vegas is not that much closer than Paris. It's closer, but it's not that much closer. But we will, it's a 6.5-hour flight out there versus a 7.5-hour flight from Paris back to Boston. So it's not actually that different. But it's all still within the United States, and I think that the servers we use are going to make it so that we're going to have a better connection.
All signs point to that being the case, that we will have a better technological setup. But as we know, our hypotheses don't always turn out the way
they don't always. We are making a hypothesis, and we will see if it is proven next week. All right, we'll talk to you on Monday.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.